Um, did you know the air inside your home could actually be more polluted than the air outside?
It sounds completely backwards, doesn't it?
It really does. Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm so glad you're here with us today because, well, when I first read that statistic in our source material, it completely threw me.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those facts that makes you pause.
Right. I mean, you always think of your home as this impenetrable safe haven. You close the doors, you lock the windows, and you just assume you are sealing all the bad stuff out.
Exactly.
But the reality of what you might actually be breathing while you're, just sitting on your couch reading a book is quite surprising.
It is a startling realization,
Yeah.
especially when you look at the raw data. We're culturally conditioned to focus almost entirely on outdoor air pollution.
Yeah, like smog and stuff.
Right. When we think of bad air, we picture city smog, heavy car exhaust, or, industrial plant emissions. Yet modern humans spend the vast majority of their lives indoors,
Oh, for sure.
often upwards of 90% of our time. And despite that, we really rarely give a second thought to the microscopic, enclosed environment we are continuously cultivating inside our own walls.
Which is wild when you put it like that. And that is the core of our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to explore exactly why indoor air quality can sometimes be significantly worse than the air out on the street.
And how it actually happens.
Yes, how this invisible ecosystem impacts your everyday health, and most importantly, what you as a homeowner can actually do about it. And we aren't just looking at academic theories today.
No, we have some incredible real-world data.
We really do. The insights we're unpacking are drawn directly from the field data of Hurricane Group, also known as Hurricane LLC. They're widely recognized as Atlanta's premier property restoration and HVAC hygiene specialists.
They really are.
And the case studies they provided really peel back the drywall on this issue.
Their perspective is incredibly valuable because they operate on the front lines of this problem every single day. They aren't just running computer models in a sterile lab.
Right, they're in the actual houses.
Exactly. They are opening up the actual aging infrastructure of homes and seeing the physical, theological accumulation that happens over years and decades.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because the specifics of what is actually floating around inside a standard house are, well, I'm not going to lie, they are a little unsettling.
Very unsettling.
When we talk about indoor air pollution, we aren't just talking about the light, fluffy dust you see floating in a sunbeam. The sources detail a massive, dense accumulation of contaminants.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just regular dust.
We are talking about human skin cells, severe grime, pet dander, aerosolized cooking smoke, grease particles, and heavy chemical residues from everyday cleaning products.
And that is just the inert material.
Right.
The organic, biological matter is where things get truly complicated. You have pollen, which easily enters through open doors or on your clothes, mold spores, fungi, microscopic bacteria, and remnants from dust mites, rodents, and insects.
Oh, gross.
I know. In an outdoor environment, wind, rain, and UV light naturally disperse and neutralize these elements. But indoors, they become trapped. They simply circulate in a closed loop.
So it's essentially a terrarium of our own waste and allergens.
That's a great way to put it.
And the sources emphasize that this isn't just a dry, dusty buildup. There is a specific phenomenon mentioned in the data, especially regarding the metro Atlanta area where Hurricane LLC operates.
What's fascinating here is the specific environmental alchemy that causes all of this to accumulate so aggressively in certain climates.
Alchemy is a good word for it.
The southeastern United States, and Atlanta in particular, serves as a perfect case study for this. In that region, you have extreme humidity, often reaching 70% or higher during the summer.
Oh yeah, it gets incredibly muggy.
Combine that with some of the highest seasonal pollen counts in the country.
Right, the infamous yellow pollen clouds. I've seen pictures of cars completely coated in it.
Imagine pulling that heavy, moisture-laden, pollen-rich air into a home's dark, enclosed ventilation system. It doesn't just pass through harmlessly.
It gets stuck.
Exactly. The atmospheric moisture mixes with the dry dust, the sticky pollen, the pet hair, and the cooking grease to create a unique viscous substance. Specialists in the field actually refer to this as Georgia sludge.
Georgia sludge. It sounds like a B-movie monster.
It really does, but it is a thick, moisture-trapping grime that literally coats the interior walls of a home's ductwork.
Just hearing the mechanics of how it forms makes so much sense, though. It's like a hidden layer of glue that you can't reach with a regular rip and cleaning routine because it's physically trapped inside the very system that is supposed to be keeping the house comfortable.
And because it acts like an adhesive, it creates a compounding problem. Every time a new particle of pet hair or a dormant mold spore enters the return vent, it gets caught in that sludge.
Oh, so it just builds on itself.
Yes, and that sludge holds onto moisture, creating the perfect, dark, humid breeding ground for microbial growth to thrive. It's no longer just dust, it becomes an active biological matrix.
Which perfectly explains why you need specialized intervention to handle it. The eye-opening field data we are discussing today is sponsored by Hurricane LLC.
The experts on this exact issue.
Exactly. If you're listening and realizing your home might be harboring its own ecosystem, you can reach them directly at 404-999-5753. What stands out in their profile is the sheer volume of positive feedback.
They have a ton of great reviews.
Over 800 five-star reviews, actually. They are incredibly well regarded for their residential air duct cleaning in Atlanta, Georgia, but their scope is much broader.
They do a lot more than just ducts.
Right, they are Atlanta's leading specialist in HVAC hygiene and comprehensive property restoration. They handle everything from air duct cleaning and dryer vent cleaning to heavy-duty water damage restoration and crawl space encapsulation.
It is also worth noting their credentials. The source material highlights that they provide IICRC certified solutions.
Wait, before we move into the mechanics of the house, what exactly does IICRC stand for? I see these acronyms a lot, but what does it actually mean for a homeowner?
That is a great question. It stands for the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification. It is essentially the gold standard, the board certification, for the restoration industry.
So it means they know what they are doing.
Exactly. It means a company isn't just winging it. They are adhering to strict, scientifically backed protocols for identifying and safely removing hazardous materials without cross-contaminating the rest of the house.
So it's the difference between a guy with a shop vacuum and a certified environmental technician. That makes total sense. Again, you can reach Hurricane LLC at 404-999-5753. Now let's talk about how this sludge actually affects the house itself, because the sources use a really compelling analogy.
Lung analogy, yes.
They describe the HVAC system and the ductwork as the lungs or the breathing system of the home.
It is the most accurate way to visualize it. When you look at an air conditioning vent, it is easy to just think of it as a magical box that blows cold air.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. But it is actually a massive, interconnected respiratory system extending through your attic, your walls, and your floors.
And just like human lungs, if the airways are coated in gunk, the whole body starts to suffer. Instead of circulating fresh, clean oxygen, those air ducts are essentially acting as a hidden reservoir for all the contaminants we just talked about.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this accumulation takes a massive mechanical toll on the house. Think about the physics of airflow. When you have lint, thick sludge, and debris coating the interior of the ducts, it restricts the diameter of the airway.
So less air can get through.
Exactly. The system literally starts to suffocate.
Like trying to breathe through a cocktail straw while running a marathon.
Precisely. And the mechanical consequences of that are severe. The blowing motor has to work significantly harder to push air through that restricted space. This constant strain causes high-temperature safety switches to malfunction.
That sounds expensive.
It is. The system might start cycling on and off rapidly when it shouldn't, a process known as short cycling. You can imagine how catastrophic that gets during the sweltering heat of a Georgia summer when the AC is already running non-stop just to maintain a baseline temperature.
The sources have some wild data on the financial impact of this, too. Removing this buildup isn't just about cleanliness. It allows the system to operate at peak thermodynamic efficiency.
The savings are real.
They are. Clearing those pathways can reduce a home's monthly energy consumption by up to 15 to 20%. Plus, it massively increases the overall lifespan of the HVAC unit because the motors and heat exchangers aren't constantly redlining.
Saving 20% on cooling costs over the lifespan of a system is a massive financial return. But beyond the mechanical strain and the energy bills, we have to look at the human element. The biological effects of breathing this recycled air are profound.
Yeah, the health impacts detailed in the sources are intense. And honestly, there are things so many of us brush off as just waking up on the wrong side of the bed or having a minor seasonal cold.
We normalize feeling bad.
We really do. This airborne dust and microbial sludge directly aggravates respiratory issues. It causes shortness of breath, chronic coughing, and that awful burning, itchy feeling in your eyes and skin. It's also linked to frequent headaches, persistent fatigue, and a severe worsening of asthma and allergy symptoms.
We have to remember how the human immune system works. When you have fungi, bacteria, and allergens constantly circulating in a concentrated indoor environment, your body's defense mechanisms are always on high alert.
Always fighting something off.
Right. Your lungs are constantly deploying immune cells to clear out these microscopic foreign invaders. That state of chronic low-grade inflammation is exhausting for the body, which explains the fatigue and the headaches.
That is wild. You might think you have terrible outdoor spring allergies, but it could actually be your own house-blowing concentrated pollen from 3 seasons ago directly into your face while you sleep.
It is a very real hazard. Major health agencies, doctors, and scientists consistently point to airborne indoor dust as a leading cause of localized health problems. Eliminating these impurities physically reduces the risk of airborne disease transmission within the household.
That makes sense.
And while everyone breathes easier with clean air, the data clearly shows that the elderly, allergy sufferers, and those managing asthma stand to gain the most. For those demographics, indoor air hygiene is a fundamental necessity, not a luxury.
Which brings us to the crucial part, how to actually fix it correctly. Because doing it wrong sounds like it could just make things worse. This highlights the importance of our sponsor, Hurricane LLC, who you can reach at 404-999-5753. The source material outlines their operational philosophy, and it is spearheaded by their lead specialist, Liran.
Liran really knows his stuff.
He brings over 15 years of deep field experience to the table and operates under an engineering-first, quality-first mandate.
That engineering-first mindset is the critical differentiator here. It means they approach a property not just as a collection of rooms, but as a complex, interconnected thermodynamic system. They are looking to diagnose and solve the root causes of moisture and poor air quality, not just put a temporary Band-Aid on the symptoms.
Right, they aren't just wiping down the visible part of the vent in your ceiling and calling it a day. As we mentioned, they provide ICRC-certified solutions, focusing on residential air duct cleaning. But they are also equipped for major water damage emergency response, which makes sense given the connection between moisture and mold.
And they even handle high-end home renovations.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If you are looking at your air vents right now with deep suspicion, what is the actual practical game plan?
The baseline step is establishing a proper maintenance timeline. According to the field experts at Hurricane, a standard home should schedule a professional duct cleaning every 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years, okay.
However, that timeline shrinks considerably depending on the environment. If you have indoor pets, which continuously add a tremendous amount of hair, skin, and dander to the system, or if a resident suffers from asthma, a professional cleaning is strongly recommended every 2 years.
Okay, 2 years if you have a golden retriever shedding everywhere, that tracks. But I want to dig into the methodology. How do you actually get Georgia sludge out of a duct network that snakes through an entire house? Because I've heard horror stories of discount cleaners showing up, sticking a shop vacuum into a vent, and just blowing a massive cloud of toxic dust right into the living room.
That is exactly what happens when you lack the proper engineering protocols. To prevent that, Hurricane LLC utilizes a highly specific medical-grade procedure they call the 4-step pure air process.
Yeah.
It is fascinating from a mechanical standpoint.
Break that down for us. What is step 1?
Step 1 is a full system diagnostic. Before they even touch a vacuum, they use specialized camera inspection equipment to snake through the ductwork.
Oh, like a medical scope.
Very similar. They visually identify where the mold hotspots are, where the heaviest debris is accumulating, and check for any structural breaches in the ducts themselves. You cannot effectively treat an environment if you don't map it first.
Makes total sense. Diagnosis before prescription. What happens in step 2?
Step 2 is perhaps the most critical engineering safeguard: negative pressure isolation. They systematically seal off all the supply and return vents in the house. Then they connect massive truck-mounted HEPA-filtered vacuums to the main trunk line of your HVAC system.
So negative pressure. Basically, they are turning the entire duct network of the house into one giant one-way vacuum, meaning the air can only flow out of the house into their machine, preventing any dust from escaping back into the bedrooms.
That is exactly the physics of it. And you mentioned HEPA earlier. It stands for high-efficiency particulate air. A true HEPA filter intercepts particles as tiny as 0.3 microns, which is about 300 times smaller than human hair.
Wow.
It ensures that when they pull that contaminated air out, the microscopic exhaust isn't just being vented back into your yard.
Okay, so the house is under negative pressure. But we talked about how sticky that sludge is. A vacuum alone, even a huge one, isn't going to pull hardened grime off a metal wall.
Which leads directly into step 3, mechanical scrubbing. While the negative pressure vacuum is pulling hundreds of cubic feet of air per minute, technicians feed specialized agitation tools, pneumatic whips, and rotating brushes deep into the ducts.
And they just scrub it clean.
Yes. These tools violently but safely scrub the interior walls, physically breaking the adhesive bond of the sludge and years of built-up grime, which is instantly sucked away by the vacuum.
It's like a specialized car wash for the inside of your home's lungs. And the final step.
Step 4 is an optional EPA sanitization. Once the physical debris is completely removed, they can apply a non-toxic, eco-friendly, antimicrobial fogging throughout the system.
That sounds very thorough.
It is. It is completely safe for kids and pets, but it destroys 99.9% of remaining bacteria and leaves a microscopic protective barrier to inhibit mold from taking root again during the humid months.
That is an incredibly thorough protocol. And for a standard single-family home in the Atlanta area, the sources say this whole process usually takes between 2 to 4 hours.
Not bad at all.
Taking a few hours to undo potentially a decade of toxic buildup is an amazing investment of time. But the source material also mentions that duct cleaning is just one piece of the puzzle, right? Liren's team looks at other vulnerabilities in the house.
They do. If you truly want to optimize indoor air, you have to look at the whole system. The sources outline several other vital maintenance steps. Obviously, regularly replacing your HVAC media filters is non-negotiable. But they also heavily recommend installing UV lights directly inside the HVAC system.
Like the UVC Max 36 equipment mentioned in the text. How does a light bulb clean the air?
It's actually utilizing ultraviolet C-spectrum light. When airborne pathogens, like viruses or mold spores, pass through the intense UVC light inside the duct, the light physically scrambles their DNA and RNA.
Really?
Yes. It neutralizes their ability to replicate, essentially sterilizing the air as it circulates.
That is brilliant. It's like having a bouncer at the door of your ductwork, checking the DNA of everything that passes.
It is highly effective. The sources also emphasize the importance of controlling humidity from the ground up, specifically through proper crawl space encapsulation.
I've always wondered about crawl spaces. Why does the dirt under the house affect the air in the attic?
It is due to a thermodynamic principle called the stack effect. Think of a house like a giant chimney.
Okay.
Warm air rises and escapes through the upper levels and the roof. As it does, it creates a vacuum at the bottom of the house, pulling air up from the crawl space. If your crawl space is an exposed, damp, moldy dirt floor, up to 50% of the air you breathe on the first floor was pulled directly from that damp earth.
50%, that is staggering.
It is. Encapsulating it, sealing it off with heavy vapor barriers, and dehumidifying it stops that moisture from ever entering the home's breathing system.
That stack effect analogy completely changes how I view a house. And addressing these structural issues translates directly to the bottom line. The financial return on investment here is massive.
The data supports that entirely. When homeowners integrate professional ductwork repair and comprehensive crawl space encapsulation into their property care, it yields a proven 65 to 80% return on investment.
That is a massive ROI.
You are actively preventing structural wood rot, ensuring the floor joists remain structurally sound, and stopping insidious moisture damage before it requires major demolition.
And if you ever go to sell, having a certified, clean, mold-resistant infrastructure with a sealed crawl space is a huge selling point in competitive markets. So let's bring all of this together. The air inside your home is not just empty space. It is a complex, hidden ecosystem.
A living system, really.
Exactly. The quality of that air directly dictates your daily physical comfort. It heavily impacts your wallet through energy efficiency and the lifespan of your expensive HVAC equipment, and above all, it plays a massive role in your family's long-term respiratory health.
The main takeaway is that you are not a passive victim of your indoor environment. You have the ability to control and completely change the quality of the air you breathe every single day.
You don't have to just live with burning eyes, endless dusting, or an overworked AC unit that spikes your bill every July. There are proven, engineered steps you can take. And if you're anywhere in the metro Atlanta area, you know exactly who has the expertise to handle this. You can call Hurricane LLC at 404-999-5753 for residential air duct cleaning and incredibly thorough, comprehensive home care solutions.
They really are the experts.
With over 800 five-star reviews and a 100% satisfaction guarantee, they have the IICRC certifications and the engineering-first mindset to solve the actual root cause of your air quality issues, not just the symptoms. Give them a call at 404-999-5753 and let them help your home breathe again.
This raises an important question, though, and it's a concept I want you to think about as we wrap up today's deep dive. Consider the history of how we build houses. Following the energy crises of the 1970s, modern construction pivoted to making homes incredibly airtight.
True, everything got sealed up tight.
We use heavy weather stripping, double-pane windows, and vapor barriers to seal every possible crack, all to save on energy and block out the weather.
Right, the goal was to make the house like a thermos, to keep the heat or the AC from escaping.
Exactly. But in achieving that perfect thermal envelope, are we inadvertently sealing ourselves inside a perfectly preserved time capsule of our own microscopic waste, chemical off-gassing, and biological allergens?
Oh, wow.
It certainly changes the way you think about the simple, old-fashioned act of opening a window to let a breeze in versus relying completely on an artificial enclosed breathing system to keep you alive and comfortable.
A perfectly preserved time capsule of our own microscopic waste. That is a slightly terrifying but incredibly important thought to mull over. It really makes you appreciate the absolute necessity of keeping those artificial lungs meticulously clean. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you walk away from this feeling a bit more empowered, breathing a little easier, and maybe looking at those vents in your ceiling with a whole new perspective. Take care, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.